Well, hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to CR. Hey, let's stand up. We're going to get into our time of worship. And it's going to be good. And it's going to be sweet. Today we've just been having technical difficulties. And here's the thing, man. The Lord is in this place. And the Spirit is in this place. All Jesus does is triumph. And so, technical difficulties, no big deal. We're not worried. We're excited. And tonight's going to be good, and it's going to be sweet. And we're going to raise a song, and we're going to fill this place with praise. And we're going to rejoice in testimony. And, the enemy has no choice but to leave. So, with that being said, Eric, can you just give us All right, here we go. I was lost with a broken heart. You picked me up, now I'm set apart. From the ash I am born again, forever safe in the Savior's hands. You are more than my words could say. I'll follow you, Lord, for all my days. Fix my eyes, follow in your ways. Forever free in unending grace. 'Cause you are my freedom. We lift you higher, Your love, never ending. Oh. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. In the midst of the darkest night, let your love be the shining light, breaking chains that were holding me. You sent your son down to set me free, and everything of this world will fade. I'm pressing on till I see your face. I will live that your will be done. And I won't stop till your kingdom comes. 'Cause you are my freedom. We lift you higher, Your love, never ending. Oh. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Nothing can set us free. Oh. Let's sing. You are my freedom. We lift you higher. Yeah, you are my freedom. We lift you higher. You are my freedom. We lift you higher. Your love, never ending. Oh. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. You are alive in us. Nothing can take your place. You are all we need. Your love has set us free. Whoa.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is David. I'm recovering from drugs and alcohol and a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. Let's pray. My Heavenly Father, I come before you, Lord. I just want to thank you, Lord, for letting us be here another day, another night here at CR. Lord, I lift up the first-time comer that comes through those doors, Lord, that they're welcome, Lord. And Lord, I lift up this testimony. I lift up Kathy tonight, Lord, that you bless her, you speak through her, Lord. Remove any fear or anxiety that she has, that she'll just be fine as she gives this testimony, Lord. And Lord, I just lift up the ones that are struggling tonight. I pray that you're with us, Lord. I know a lot of us are struggling with fear, anxiety, or whatever it is, Lord. I know that you're always here and you're awesome. Lord, I lift up my son that's going through a tough time right now, that you're there to help him get through this. And Lord, we thank you. We glorify your name. In Jesus' name I pray, and all God's people said.
All the dead are coming back to life. I'm back to life. Hear the song awaken, all creation singing, we're alive. 'Cause you're alive. You called me out of the grave. You called me into the light. You called my name and then my heart came alive. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. And what a love we found. Death can't hold us down. Shout it out, we're alive 'cause you're alive. And what a love we found. Death can't hold us down. We shout it out, we're alive 'cause you're alive. And what a love we found. Death can't hold us down. We shout it out, we're alive 'cause you're alive. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your love is stronger. Your love awakens, awakens, awakens me. Your love is greater. Your For there isn't what is overcome. Yes. And for every fear, there's an empty grave. For there isn't what is overcome. We will not be moved when the earth gives way. For there isn't what is overcome. And for every fear, there's an empty grave. For there isn't what is overcome.
Amen. Good evening, family. How are you guys doing? My name is Michelle. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I'm celebrating recovery from chemical dependency. Hi, guys.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sean. I am in Celebrate Recovery for sexual addiction and compulsive overeating.
Hi, Sean. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over our addictions and compulsive behaviors, that our lives had become unmanageable.
I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my sinful nature. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. Romans 7:18.
Step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity.
For it is God who works in you to will and to act according to his good purpose. Philippians 2:13.
Step 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God.
Therefore, I urge you, as brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Romans 12:1.
Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves.
Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. Lamentations 3:40.
Step 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs.
Therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray for each other that you may be healed. James 5:16.
Step 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character.
Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. James 4:10.
Step 7, we humbly asked him to remove all our shortcomings.
If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. 1 John 1:9.
Step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all.
Do to others as you would have them do to you. Luke 6:31.
Step 9, we made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others.
Therefore, if you are offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to your brother, then come and offer your gift. Matthew 5:23-24.
Step 10, we continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it.
So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. 1 Corinthians 10:12.
Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry it out.
Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly. Colossians 3:16.
Step 12, having had a spiritual experience as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
All praise to the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. He is the source of every mercy and the God who comforts us. He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others. When others are troubled, we will be able to give them the same comfort God has given us. 2 Corinthians 1, 3 through 4.
Thank you, guys. Good evening. My name is Scott. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I'm in recovery from sex addiction and compulsive overeating. Hey, glad that you guys are here today. If you're part of our junior high or high school ministry, that means you're part of the Landing. Feel free to head on out over to the venue where we got a great night in store for you over there. We've got a great night of doing their inventory. How fun will that be? It's excitement right there. So if you're here for the first time, let's welcome our first time guest. Glad you made it. We hope that you keep coming back, but one of the things I want to encourage you, if this is your first time, sit back and relax and enjoy yourself tonight. And then after we get done with our time in here, we do have a group we'd like to invite you to. It's our first time guest group. It meets in the altar, which is out this door to my left, your right. Just head on across that hallway. And we'd love to tell you about the recovery program here on a Tuesday night and how it can impact your life for the rest of your life. So second time guest, welcome back. Glad that you made it back. Keep coming back. It works if you work it, so work it because you're worth it. That's an important phrase that you need to learn and hold to. But if you are here for the second time, you may not know where your group meets. You may not know which group you even need to be in. And so we've got people after we close with the Serenity Prayer that would love to help you find your group and get there. And so you can, there's two ways you can do that. One is to come up front here and we'll have two people wearing a blue lanyard that says I can help. You can talk to either one of those folks and they would love to help guide you and direct you. Or you can head out that direction, and ladies in between the two buildings out there, we will have a lady, and if you're a guy, keep walking through there, and out in the middle of all the portable area, we have a guy that will be standing out there again with the blue lanyard that would love to help guide you to your group if needed. So that's kind of what's available. Next Saturday, I believe, October 5th at 9 a.m., we have a sponsor training, and so it's hard to kind of go through the steps without a sponsor. Many have tried, and many have failed. And I've met a few, and sometimes the mentality is I can do this on my own, I don't need anybody else. Well, recovery isn't meant to be done alone, and we need our support structure around us, and we need somebody who's walked that road before us. And so you could become that person in somebody's life, and we'd love to help guide you and direct you and teach you some tools to help you along that journey. So Saturday, October 5th at 9 a.m. in the Fireside Room, which is where we drop the kids off for Rock Solid Kids. Head on in there, and we'd love to walk you through that process in your life. So I encourage you to be there for that. Last week was Saturday, September 21st. We had our Unity in the Community event. Not very often do we get together as the recovery community that's faith-based and have a great time. But we did that last week, and it was a great time. How many of you guys were there? Yeah, was it exciting? Did you guys have a good time? Did you guys like the free barbecue? Don't tell me you won the pie eating contest. Yeah! That is awesome. That's legit. That's fun time. So I encourage you next year as you guys start to hear about the Unity in the Community coming around, sign up to volunteer, be a part of that process of our recovery in the area. So I encourage you with that. One last announcement that I have is New Year's Eve. Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve fall on a Tuesday night. Well, we're going to have a special night on New Year's Eve in here. And I just encourage you, you guys are going to want to make sure that you're here that night. We're going to have a stellar night because I know a lot of you have been a lot of different places on a New Year's Eve that has not been healthy. And this is going to be a great place for you to be safe, having a great time. And so I encourage you guys, put that on your calendar. Make sure you're here. In a few weeks, we'll tell you a little bit more details, give you some sign-up sheets because we will need volunteers to make the whole evening happen. But I encourage you guys, let the other CRs in the area know and invite them to be a part of it as well. One of the cool things about being in the ministries for so long is I get to see people come in and go. And the cool thing is when they stay. And when they've stayed and they continue to work their program and they continue to share, they continue to step up and facilitate open share groups, lead people through a step study, sponsor people, you really get to see people grow and mature. I've had a chance to meet her and know her and her whole family. I enjoy what she's about to share with us tonight. So you guys please welcome Kathy as she comes up to share her story with us.
Hi, everybody. So glad you're here. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ, and I'm celebrating recovery from a lot of, oh man, here I go already. I can't do this. I'm celebrating recovery from a lot of things. Some of them are childhood sexual abuse, codependency at large, and fear, which has manifested in people pleasing and anger. My name is Kathy. Hi. Let's pray. Father, I thank you so much. I thank you that you never gave up on me when I gave up on myself. Thank you for loving me. Thank you, Lord, for your mercy and grace and your love that is just amazing. Lord, I pray that you wouldn't let me cry the whole time that I'm doing this. But Father, have your way. And if there's anybody here struggling, Lord, let them know that there's hope. If you can do what you did in me, you can do it for anyone. And I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Gotta get my Kleenexes because I'm gonna obviously need them. I grew up in Salida, and I was the fifth born in a poor family of 9. I was often embarrassed about being poor. We were a family who were always at church together religiously. There were always a lot of rules of what we couldn't do. Rules to me meant no fun. I was all about having fun. Being a Christian seemed all about the performance on what I was supposed to look like on the outside. I would be at the altar over and over getting saved because of the constant mistakes I made. How come I just couldn't learn to be good? I just wanted to be loved and accepted by God, but I felt I couldn't measure up to his standards. To me, God was condemning, judgmental, and just waiting for me to mess up so he could punish me. Growing up, my dad was the sole provider and was super strict. He was often frustrated, complaining and griping about everything. It seemed as though nothing we did was ever good enough. He would always have something negative to say. I saw him as mean, yet on the inside, I longed for him to smile at me and just be happy. I never felt like I was a priority to my dad, and I often wondered, Daddy, do you even like me? My dad believed in spanking us kids with the belt. There were seven of us, so it seemed like there was always somebody getting whipped and yelled at. I would cry, obviously, even before he had his belt off. When I was about 11, something happened on the inside of me that would affect me more than I would even realize throughout my life. My sister had gotten in trouble from my dad, and he was really angry and hurt. He whipped, hit, and yelled all kinds of horrible things to her. I watched him literally lose control of himself, and he wouldn't stop hitting her. I remember screaming on the inside of me for my sister to cry and to stop talking and just stop arguing with my dad, and for my dad to stop whipping her and yelling at her. They wouldn't. Nobody could help her. I felt so sorry for her, and this really scared me to see my dad act like that. A lot of times my dad let his emotions get in the way while whipping us. I really think he was beating the rebellion out of us, and some of my siblings just wouldn't be broken, and so he wouldn't stop. After this, I saw my dad different, with fear and intimidation. I never wanted him to do that to me. It made me want to just lie and hide so I wouldn't get caught and have him mad at me. It didn't make me want to stop doing wrong. It just made me more sneaky and hide. Well, when I was 15, he did do that to me. My mom even tried to stop him, but he wouldn't stop. He even said, "This hurts me more than it hurts you." I didn't understand that. After these incidents, especially the one with my sister, any kind of stress, argument, slamming, any tension, any kind of raising your voice or being grumpy would cause me to get my emotions all jacked up. And I would seem to freeze on the inside. I just didn't understand why I was so afraid. And I would just shut down. I was never taught how to process these kinds of emotions, even as an adult. My mom was extremely opposite. I knew I was a priority to her. She's the nicest person that I've ever known. She's always loved me unconditionally in spite of all my mistakes and my decisions. She's never condemned me or judged me. And she's never said an unkind word to me. She's always encouraged me and prayed for me. And she's an amazing example of what it looks like to be a praying mom and leaving the outcome in God's hands, trusting him. I've always had a lot of good times growing up, but some of these difficult ones would seem to take a lifetime to heal from. I remember being a compliant child, at least to your face. I never argued or talked back to my parents. I tried hard to please others so we could just all be happy and get along, avoiding conflict at all costs and never wanting to rock the boat. I was sensitive and I would cry easily. It didn't take a belt for me to cry. A mean face and a grumpy voice would just bring tears. I was very athletic and a very good student, with the exception of talking too much. I got a lot of check marks for that. I loved to smile and see others smile at me. It was important for me to be liked and accepted by others, and I would do anything to get that approval. It's where I seemed to get my value, through others. Some unhealthy behaviors when I was struggling is I would pull out my hair and bite huge chunks out of the inside of my cheek. Sounds like self-harm to me. I would also get crazy cleaning done as a child and all throughout my adulthood. It was like if things were cleaned and in their perfectly proper places on the outside, I didn't feel so crazy and out of control on the inside. When I was a little girl, I was sexually abused by one of my brothers for years. Feelings of being nasty, disgusting, and gross, along with low self-esteem, were some results. I feel this contributed to me not being able to have the confidence or ability to speak up for myself and say no in my teenage years during sexual advances from boys. My whole body would just freeze and I couldn't speak. At the time, I didn't understand why I would allow certain things, but now it makes a lot of sense to me. This abuse was not talked about and dealt with until coming to Celebrate Recovery. I had my first boyfriend when I was in the 9th grade, and I had longed for a boy to notice me. It brought me some sort of value. He spent a lot of time talking to me about having sex and how it was old-fashioned to wait until marriage, which is what I wanted to do. He would also constantly tell me he loved me. I'd never been told that before. So being wanted meant more to me than my desire to stay pure. So I gave in to the pressure. Shortly after that, he broke up with me, and as he put it, he had to move on to the next virgin. He literally would seek out virgins. He actually told me this afterwards. So I was only chosen because he wanted something very precious from me, and he got it. It wasn't because he liked me or even thought I was pretty. I began to believe the lie that I have nothing to offer anyone just being me. I need to give you something or do something for you so you will like me. And I'm sorry, I have to blow my nose. Sorry. Oh, man. This belief would take me down a destructive path. I realized my body can be used to get attention from boys. I just wanted to be liked. So I became very promiscuous, started using drugs and alcohol to fit in with others. My sister let me use her ID to get into bars, and I put myself in very dangerous situations because I was too young and dumb to even realize what I was doing. I thought I was having fun. These were some of those forbidden rules that seemed so attractive to me. While I was in high school, I dated this guy on and off for about 4 years. I got pregnant twice by him having an abortion both times. Right after getting engaged to him at 19, I went on a trip with my best friend to Hawaii. While there, I met another guy. When I returned home, I gave the ring back to my boyfriend and I broke up with him. The thrill of being wanted and a new relationship was enough to make a crazy decision. I was 19, headed back to Hawaii, where the only person I knew was a guy who I just met for 5 days. And I had a one-way ticket with no money in my hands, no phone number to even contact me with. Anything could have happened to me, and no one would have known or had a way to get any information. 35 years ago, there was no internet, cell phones, or FaceTime. We're talking payphones. The crazy thing is, I wasn't scared or worried. I thought I was having the time of my life, fun. Not once did I think about my parents being worried about me. I often look back on my life and I think, that is not me. She's not right. I don't know her. Anyway, I went. I said bye to my mom, but I never said a word to my dad. We got married quickly because he was in the military and I needed a place to live. A few months later, I got pregnant. I was now ready to be a mom. The partying stopped for me. You see, I wasn't addicted to drugs or alcohol. I was addicted to people. Due to some bad choices of my husband, he was going to prison for a year, and I came back home to live with my parents, alone and pregnant. My parents were supportive, and both were there when I gave birth to my first son, Justin. I loved being a new mom. My husband came to live with us when Justin was 1. We knew nothing about each other, so we really struggled in our marriage. I never understood why he always preferred to do things without me, and later I found out that drugs and cheating were going on. Again, feeling rejection and not good enough. During this time, I got a little job at a little cafe. This handsome guy came in and gave me a huge flirty smile. I smiled back. He was friends with the cook, and he told me later that he knew the minute he saw me that he was going to marry me. He told the cook that day, "I'm going to marry that pretty waitress." And the cook said, "You can't, she's already married." Bob's reply was, "You watch me go." Within a week, we went out to lunch, and I immediately came home. I packed all my things, and I ended my struggling 4-year marriage. The thrill of being wanted and a new relationship again was enough. My son and I moved back in with my parents again. My dad tried hard to stop this new relationship by threatening to shoot Bob if he came around. The cook even tried to stop it. He told me Bob was a snake and a dog. His name was Bob the dog. But to no avail, quickly we moved out together. He attended church regularly with me. Believe it or not, this whole time, I claimed to be a church-going Christian despite all of my decisions and choices. I had asked Jesus to come into my heart, but I hadn't yet surrendered my life and my will over to the care of God. I was going through the motions, rituals, and duties, religion, but not really having a heart change. This was all my control. I was so broken, but I didn't even know it. We got married as soon as my divorce was final, and I thought things would be different and peaceful. But as it is said in recovery, wherever I go, there I am. Bob took on the responsibility of my 4-year-old son, and we had a lot of good times together. In the next 3 years, we had 2 more beautiful baby boys, Michael and then Bradley. Soon, our lives were consumed with kids, bills, and work. Bob spent all his time focusing on work and financially taking care of us, and all of my time went to our boys. This was fun and fulfilling to me. I absolutely loved being a mom. Our house was crazy and loud, with wrestling matches, making forts, Nerf wars, and video games, and so much more. It was the fun house. Bob came to me one day and said, "Kathy, I think I have finally figured you out. You just want to have fun." I loved having fun. This made me feel like a good mom. Years of this cycle eventually caught up with us of failing to nurture our marriage, and we found ourselves unable to communicate about anything, especially the kids. Bob was often frustrated with working long, hard hours and did a lot of complaining, and I became defensive, angry, and held onto resentments, unable to forgive him. I felt I had to stick up for the kids. This reminded me of my mom and dad's behavior when I was little. Because of the tension I would feel from Bob, the fear and anxiety would come, and then I would isolate and ignore him, bringing his insecurities into the situation. I was often frustrated with him and focused on the negative and ignoring anything positive. I actually looked for the negative. If you look for it, you will find it. I did not know how to express my needs and wants and desires, so I would stuff everything inside me and explode about every 3 months. I would drag along this imaginary suitcase in my head and keep record of all Bob's wrongs, and when I couldn't take it anymore, I'd dump that full suitcase out on top of him and give him all the reasons why I was mad at him, and I would justify my behavior, all 3 months' worth. He didn't stand a chance. Then we'd start all over again. These crazy cycles would be repeated over and over because this was all I knew. I had no other tools in my box. Ephesians 4:26 through 27 says, "Don't sin by letting anger gain control over you. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry, for anger gives a mighty foothold to the devil, and a foothold there was for sure in our home and family." All the emotional pain and hurt was being taken out on Bob that I carried around. I didn't trust him or anyone, and we were both jealous because of our insecurities and past. I had no respect for him or any other man, to be honest with you. I believed all they ever wanted was sex, food, and were always grouchy and complaining. Anything Bob said in a tone other than happy hurt my feelings, and I just felt so fragile. I just wanted to please him. In one of my desperate moments, I flipped over all of our furniture, physically attacked Bob, and scared our 3 young boys who were watching their mom's out-of-control behavior. They had never seen me act like this before. After another one of our bad blow-ups, my son invited me to come to celebrate recovery with him. This was November 2011. I thought this place was strange. It wasn't like any church I'd been in before. People being brutally honest about their hurts, habits, and hang-ups. I'd always worn a mask, acting like I had it all together. I thought that's what I was supposed to do. I went to small group, and that was even more weird because nobody would give me any advice on how to fix the people in my life or even engage with me in conversation due to the no crosstalk guideline. This seemed so restrictive to me. After sharing and crying my eyes out and begging for some help, all the ladies said, "Thank you for sharing, Kathy." "Thank you for coming. Glad you're here." I was like, That's it? What? How is this supposed to help me? I needed somebody to tell me how to quickly fix the people in my life so I can go back to my normal life. Little did I know that 8 years later, I would still be here in these strange rooms of recovery, still healing from my hurts, habits, and hang-ups. I never want to go back to my so-called normal life. There was nothing normal about it. In the beginning years of my recovery, I would just come and cry. I am in this process of being peeled like an onion. Well, guess what happens when we cut into an onion? We cry. So every time God cuts into my onion, there is pain and I cry. But there is also healing and freedom in that pain through the process. There is a purpose. It's not for nothing. I also came to understand that I struggled with codependency. What? I thought this was the Christian way to be and very normal. Put others before yourself, do everything for them, even without being asked. I always put myself last. This was all I knew. As a codependent, I'm addicted to relationships, and I get my fix by being needed to feel good about myself. I was looking to others to fulfill a need that only God can provide. That lie again, that I have nothing to offer anyone just being me. I didn't even know who me was. I was so confused and broken and sick and tired of being sick and tired. Something had to change. I really wanted the peace and joy that others talked about in their testimonies and sharing time. People also brought up the topic about having a sponsor, and my thought on that was, what in the world do I need one of those for? I am self-sufficient and I am very independent. I only need me. I would soon find out that would be one of my major problems. I also heard about getting into a step study, and I thought, now that is for people who are really messed up, not me. I just need the people in my life to get their act together, then I'd be okay, right? No. I was just as broken as the broken people in my life, but yet I was so self-righteous, and I believed I had it all together. I still don't understand where all this self-righteousness comes from. Anyway, I gave in, and I got a sponsor, and I joined a step study. After all, what did I have to lose? I tried for years controlling and fixing and people-pleasing, and that didn't work. So it was time to do something different, work on me. I dove in. Step one was the most healing for me, stepping out of denial. It seemed to take a while because I'd been deceived for so long about so many things, and I was used to being this way. The fourth step was the most difficult because this was the first time I'd ever made a searching and moral inventory of myself, writing down everything that I could remember that's been done to me and what I've done to others. I truly believed before this that I didn't have on my part of this process because I believed I was a victim, and if certain things weren't done to me, I would have had a better life, and I would have been able to make better life choices. I was the nicest person ever, just saying. But for some reason, people would walk all over me, take advantage of my kindness. I wasn't appreciated for all my sacrifices, and they would just take and take. I never said no, and I never even heard of the word boundary. I had such a victim mentality. During this time of my fourth step, I really wanted to numb this pain because I avoid pain. I've had enough pain. So I wanted to drink alcohol, and I'm not even a drinker. But I knew that wouldn't help. Instead, I went through the process of admitting it happened, grieved the pain, forgave, and then released it to God to provide the healing. I let them go one thing at a time, one day at a time. And yes, there was pain, along with healing and freedom. Did it all go away at once? No, a little at a time. It's called a process for a reason. There were so many times I got frustrated because I just wanted to be fixed already. But it takes time. Let me tell you, there is no quick fix. I've tried everything to make this go by quick and be done. We are on a journey, so you might as well sit back and enjoy this journey that you're on, because Jesus just wants to be with you and teach you some very valuable things about yourself and Him. And if you don't learn them, you will keep going around that same mountain until you do. So enjoy the journey, learn, and do something different. Just be with Jesus. Trust and obey the process. The 5th step was all about meeting with my sponsor and reading my inventory to her. And I was so afraid that I would be judged and that she would think I was nasty and gross. Nope, she didn't. She was so proud of me, she loved me, and she prayed for me. This was so freeing. After my step study ended, I joined a different study called Surrender the Secret, and it's for women who had had an abortion. The emotions and trauma that were surfacing after 33 years seemed overwhelming. Not only now did I think about drinking, I also thought about using drugs, cutting myself, and make myself vomit to get this disgusting feeling out of me. I would lay on the floor with my hands on my belly, and I would cry. And I would beg God to heal me and help me. I would physically close my hand and tell God I wasn't letting him go until he healed me. I refused to let go. I went all the way through this process of the pain, emotions, and trauma of what I chose to do by having these abortions. This was not easy, but it was so rewarding and a blessing. I repeated Jeremiah 29:11 constantly during this process. For I know the plans I have for you, Kathy, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. I hung on to this truth and assurance that he would not leave me with all this suffering. I didn't know when, but I knew he was going to do it. When I finished both of these studies, some awesome miracles had taken place. I was able to let go and forgive many people who hurt me. And I was able to forgive one of the most difficult people in my life. That person's me. Earlier, I mentioned I would often say, I don't know her. And to be honest, I didn't want to know her. I rejected her, and I didn't like her. She disgusted me. God began healing the little girl, Kathy, and began showing me that I'm not nasty and I'm not gross, but I'm just very broken and hurt. And he is teaching me how to love myself through his love. I no longer feel dirty as ashes, and he has taken away that guilt and shame that I thought would never go away and I would feel for the rest of my life on the inside of me. I was in bondage, but he has set me free. That was about 6 years ago. And over these years, there has been lots of growth. About a year ago, I came to CR very broken once again, and I felt hopeless due to some circumstances beyond my control. Scott's teaching that night was step 11, spending time with Jesus, using the method of Spartzla. He made a proposal and said, any person who has reached this step and has painstakingly done the work of the previous 10 steps will go to any length to set a daily time to spend with God, because he is so working. And when you do that, you're going to find a God daily that absolutely blows your mind, because he's God and you're not. I will never forget those words, because I was just starting my 4th step study, and I worked the steps 3 previous times, and I wasn't doing this. That night, I said yes to God, and I started doing what Scott suggested. And let me tell you, that has changed my life, and God continues to blow my mind daily. This would be the most difficult year so far, but again, the most rewarding. I was going on a deep journey of letting go of my children and releasing them to God to go through their own process and journey, and also dealing with the fear that I've lived out of for at least 50 years. I would also be learning about faith and trust on a level that I've never experienced. When circumstances happen that look different from what I think they should look like, I lean on my own understanding because it doesn't make sense and it hurts. God allowed me to see the fear in me so I could be healed and set free. You cannot heal a wound by saying it's not there. It had to come up, and it was there. I kept focusing and agreeing with my circumstances and kept opening the door to fear and letting it in. 1 John 4:18 says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves torment." At my darkest point of this journey, I was paralyzed and being tormented. For 3 days, I laid on my couch crying, and I didn't eat, drink, or shower, and I couldn't move. The demons would come and say, "Where is your God you serve? Look at all your circumstances. Give up and quit already. God doesn't care about you or your family. I told you you can't trust him. Just quit calling out to him. He doesn't even hear you." And I would grab my head for days, and I would tell my brain to shut up, but it wouldn't. Horrible thoughts of bad things happening to my kids would go over and over in my head. I was gonna go to the doctor and get something to make my emotions and my thoughts shut up. But God said, wait on me, just wait. I even told God I wanted to die. Not that I would take my life, but that he would. Just don't let me wake up. This fear was too much. I quit my Redwoods and my jail ministry because I was so broken. I had nothing to give anybody. I needed help. I even told Bob I was leaving him. Worry, doubt, and unbelief consumed me. God was taking me to a deeper understanding of a relationship, intimacy, and his love. And fear did not want to let me go. Fear and faith have the same meaning. Both of them are believing in something that hasn't happened yet. One is from God, and the other is from the devil and flesh and emotions. Why was I choosing to believe the father of lies and refusing to believe the father of truth? This is just mind-blowing to me. After being on the couch for 3 days, the Lord spoke, and it was very clear. He said, "Kathy, get up, go take a shower, and go to the specific place I tell you to go. I have something for you." And I obeyed. It was a church meeting I'd never been to. And after the message on intimacy and God's love, this person I've never seen before said, "This is the word of the Lord for you. Don't believe the enemy, because they are all lies. But you listen to what I'm telling you. You are my treasure, and I have seen everything that you've been walking through, and you're not alone. Your rest is found in me." The verse for you is Isaiah 40. "Those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles, and they shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Wait on the Lord. Trust in him. Even if your circumstances don't look like they're changing or getting better, that's not what we rely on. We trust in him. His word is truth. Let me tell you, God blew my mind. I had always put my hope in my circumstances, but God was getting ready to change things in my life through hardship again. This was January 31st of this year. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind." I was being controlled by the spirit of fear, but God delivered me of that and has now given me the things from him. And I love having a sound mind, power, and love. Fear comes knocking on my door all the time with new tactics, but faith opens the door and fear has to leave. Fear is a liar, and I am no longer a slave to fear. I am truly a child of God, but it is all through intimacy, surrendering my life, my will, and my emotions over to the care of God daily. This flesh has to die daily because it is strong, and it is always wanting to rise up and take control. I cannot say enough about intimacy. During the dark time on the couch, it was very evident that I didn't know him. I knew about him, but I really didn't know him. To know him is an intimacy and relationship. Before this, I would come and seek God in my crisis, and then when things got better, I would get busy until the next crisis. That is not intimacy and relationship. I now cannot get enough of God in or out of my crisis. We have a new relationship, intimacy. Hours go by and sometimes it's not even enough. I love being alone with God. God is showing me my identity in Him. It's not through another person. He is my Father and He is my daddy, and I am His daughter. I can climb up in His lap and I can let Him just hold me, and He loves me so tenderly. And at this present time, He is still healing some very broken places in my heart that are deeper than I've ever allowed Him to go. I trust Him. My earthly father, our relationship has come a long way, and I have forgiven him. I know he's always loved me the only way he knew how. He just turned 92, and I love my dad. And Bob, he's just Bob. He's awesome. We've come a long way, and he's been very patient at times with me because he just loves me. He truly is my best friend. And this November, we will be celebrating 30 years of marriage. Now that is a miracle. My sons and my daughter-in-laws and my grandchildren are so amazing, and I am so proud of them as God teaches me to trust in Him through the hardships that they have to go through in their process. God is so faithful, and I cannot wait to see what miracles are coming next in each one of their lives. And to all of you who have walked this journey with me, thank you for being my friend. Thank you for letting me share.
Hey, let's hear it for Kathy one more time. Kathy, that little girl that said that she was unlovable and she had nothing to be loved, I want you to know you've got family and friends here that love you and care about you. And more importantly, as you've already discovered, there's a God of the universe that loves you and cares about you. Let's close our time with the serenity prayer and then get off to group. We got group that starts in 5 minutes. So, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever the next. Amen. Amen. We'll see you guys after group. First time guests right across the hallway. Second time guests come on up front. And we'll see you guys after open share. Love you guys.